everyone, and welcome to the continuation of Week 12 here on Pickswise Playbook. Once again, it's Chris Rose, Jared Smith, and our resident offensive lineman, who was the star of his 5-year high school reunion. At least we learned that in the Thanksgiving Day episode, Ross Tucker. All right, guys, we're already 3 games into the week. Plenty more action still to go. Before we get to it, a few quick reminders. We want you to follow us on all our social media channels so you can get all the information and the programming. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel as well. Download the Pickswise app wherever it is available, Apple and Google Play Store as well. It's that simple. We're done with our Thanksgiving Day special. Are you guys ready to give out the most important and vital information to make gambling so much more fun on Sunday and Monday? See, I get a thumbs up from Jared. Ross?
Yes.
Can I get a little more enthusiasm?
No.
Okay. Perfect. Let's do it. Week 12. And we're going to start with the all-important Sunday night game in Baltimore. It is the Cleveland Browns, who, oddly enough, even though they're 6-5, find themselves in the cellar of the AFC North. That's how tightly compacted this division is. 1 through 4, separated by only a game and a half. Interesting. The line opened at Baltimore -5. It's dipped a little bit since then. What is going on here, Jared?
Yeah, and we're seeing I would say slight majority. I'm seeing on DraftKings midweek about 60% of the tickets on Baltimore. I would classify this as slight reverse line movement. Not going to raise the red flag just yet, but definitely the sharper side seems to be Cleveland. It seems like they're getting some reinforcements back this week. Conklin, we're seeing Chubb, we're seeing Hunt. All the big boys are starting to make their way back to the Browns, which is very important. But the thing that I'm more interested in is the health of Lamar Jackson. And I don't know exactly what it was. I don't think anyone really does. Maybe it's the flu. Maybe it's a weird mutated version of the flu. But it's definitely an interesting thing that he missed that game on Sunday. It was very fortunate that they were able to still get the win. But is he going to be in rhythm? Is he going to have his lungs? Is he going to be fully healthy for a vitally important game? The game against Chicago was important. I would say this game is even more important as Baltimore looks to win that division. The splits are pretty even here. The numbers actually favor Cleveland on the yards per play, slight favor for Baltimore on the DVOA and the defensive numbers. I would say this is a toss-up game, which is why I'm very happy to take 4 points.
Well, first of all, if Lamar Jackson doesn't have his lungs, he should not play in a professional football game. That sounds really dangerous. If he doesn't have his lungs.
You know what I mean.
Honestly,
when you get sick, the cardio is a factor.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. So I like the Browns as well. I'm with Jared on this one. I'll be there, by the way. I'm calling the game for Westwood One on the radio. Looking forward to it. Love driving down to Baltimore. It's like an hour and 15 minutes from my house. And I like the Browns getting the points. I think it's a field goal game either way. If you're going to give me more than a field goal, I will take that. There's certainly the unknown of Lamar Jackson's ability and how well he'll play coming off the illness. Even before that against the Dolphins, he didn't play great. And I do think Baker Mayfield will play better than he did against the Lions. It'd be hard to play much worse. You mentioned Hunt. You mentioned Conklin. Taking the Browns and the points.
Let me just ask you this as not only a Browns fan, but as somebody who might be interested in playing this game. Baker Mayfield is not healthy. He's nowhere close to 100%, right? He's got the torn labrum. He's had the shoulder issue. He's got a heel issue. He's got a knee issue. If you watched him at all last week against Detroit, he did not look healthy, nor did he play well. They're paying Case Keenum an awful lot of money. Are we not so sure that Kevin Stefanski isn't making an error by starting Baker Mayfield? Look what Colt McCoy has done in Arizona. And a lot of people feel like Case Keenum is way better than Colt McCoy. Ross?
I think it's absolutely a consideration. I think it's absolutely something that they should discuss. It's a tough one. It's not just a short-term decision. It's a long-term decision as well. You want to support your guy. They want to believe that Baker's the guy. He was drafted number 1 overall. If he wants to be out there, you usually want to give your guy that opportunity to be out there. And especially if you're not sure that Case Keenum would perform much better. And Baker performed pretty well a couple weeks ago against the Bengals. So they don't really know what they're going to get from him.
Very tough spot. Very tough.
Yeah, from a gambling perspective, how do you play that when you know that a quarterback, you just look at him and you're like, he ain't right?
I think I trust the line movement more than I trust maybe what I'm seeing with my eyes, because the sharps tend to get this information beforehand. And if the line's moving towards towards Cleveland, and the majority of the action is on Baltimore, it means the smart money definitely feels confident with Cleveland this week. I'm trying to remember the Denver game when it was Keenum. The line moved pretty significantly against the Browns after it went from Baker to Keenum. So the market definitely favors Baker if he's healthy. But it is the year of the backup quarterback. What McCoy has done, what Jordan Love did, I know it wasn't a great performance, but he covered the number. What Cooper Rush did for Dallas. I mean, these backup quarterbacks have proven proficient. And Keenum's a veteran. So I think it's a tough call, but I would have to trust Kevin Stefanski. I'm sure as a Browns fan, it's probably hard to do because you see it through Browns colored glasses, but I would have to trust Stefanski's decision here.
If you are looking at the line, Browns 2-5 against the spread in their last 7 games. All right, let's move on to a game where if it had been played a month ago in New England, you would have thought, well, how much would Derrick Henry and the Titans be favored by? Well, now there's no Derrick Henry. There's no Julio Jones. We don't know about A.J. Brown. And they're taking on the hottest team in the NFL, the New England Patriots, who have won 5 in a row. And that's why they're almost a touchdown favorite in this one, Ross. This is a team that's not only winning, they are winning big. During this 5-game winning streak, they have won by a total of 125 points. What say you in this gambling space?
I say I like the Titans getting the points and getting a bunch of them. Honestly, I think it's going to be an awesome game. I think people forget the Titans had just won like 6 games in a row. They're 8-3 for a reason. And I know everybody points to the loss to the Texans. Look, totally get it. Ryan Tannehill got intercepted 4 times. That's not going to happen again.
It could be 8 times against the Patriots. The way they ball hawk. It could be 8 times.
No, it won't be. And here's the thing. 6.5 points is a lot. To me, there's another one I think is a field goal game either way. I think Vrabel kind of has Belichick's number. If you go back to Brady's last game in New England, the playoff game, the wild card game where the Titans beat them, Vrabel was there under Belichick. We were there together under Belichick. I think the Patriots probably win the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans win it all. And I don't see either team running away with it. I'll take the 6.5 points for the Titans all day.
So this game is, people ask me all the time, how much do you take into account trends and, ATS records and those kinds of things? And I think there's a big difference between a predictory trend and an explanatory trend, where there's not a lot of numbers that can predict the future, but there's a lot of trends and stats that can explain what's happened. This is an explanatory trend. It's Mike Vrabel as an underdog of over 3 points, 14-6 against the spread in his career as a head coach with Tennessee. That doesn't really predict what's going to happen in this game, because I would say all those games were with Derrick Henry. So it's really hard to take a trend, and Ross is right. Vrabel as an underdog, when his backs are against the wall, they play better, but it's more because they have probably the toughest running back maybe in the history of this league, in their backfield, and they don't now. So I think that scares me. But the line movement also would scare me towards New England, because it's moved from 2.5 now to 7 basically. And when it moves that much, what have we seen in the NFL when the line moves over 3 points in the other direction? You go on the other side. This is a good teaser spot for New England, because I do think the Pats win this game, but I think it's going to be closer than probably the experts think. I would not be comfortable laying it with New England. I would be more comfortable teasing New England. And if I had to play it from a spread perspective, if you can get 7 with Tennessee, that's where the value is for sure.
So does that officially make you guys on opposite ends here?
No.
Kind of, maybe. Not really, though.
Very easily middle. No.
100%. I agree. You could very easily. And I think this game is setting up as a 3-point, field goal kind of game. It is. And it's a low total game, too, in the low 40s.
That's why I was just looking for some clarification. By the way, Tennessee averaged without Derrick Henry 21 points per game, with him 30.5. It's a lot. It's a lot you're missing. But I know Ross is going to come back and brag at us next week when the Titans maybe not only cover, but they could win.
We'll see. I don't see him winning, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. I think they bounce back. That was a really bad loss.
Tannehill without his weapons scares me. Because he's kind of exposed on an island, and he doesn't the king of exposing weaknesses on the other team's offense is Bill Belichick. So that hammer of Derrick Henry is a nice security blanket to have. That, to me, would be the biggest concern backing Tennessee. But the numbers move too much. I agree with Ross. The numbers move too much. 6.5 is too many points to lay with the Patriots.
And Ross, ding, ding, ding. Titans 5-0 against the spread as a dog. Just saying.
Vrabel's tremendous when he's not expected to win. As a favorite, he's not so great.
He's a great coach.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take on another big game out in the NFC. You've got Minnesota traveling to the Bay Area. San Francisco right around a field goal favorite in this one. They're currently the 8th seed in the playoff chase. Minnesota checks in as the 6th seed after their home win against Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay last week. Kirk Cousins, 9-4 against the spread as a dog since the beginning of 2020. You're smirking, Jared.
Explanatory trend. I'll give you another one. So last week was the first time Kirk Cousins has ever come off the game as a win. You know, they won 2 weeks ago against the Chargers, coming off of a win, and as an underdog again the following week was able to win. He was 1-7 against the spread in those spots too. Translation, Kirk Cousins hasn't handled prosperity well with Minnesota. And that's where I would be concerned with, taking just a field goal this week with the Vikings. I think now that it's moved to 3.5, I would be more interested. I got it at 3 earlier this week. I think the Niners are playing their best ball of the year. Mm-hmm. I mean, that offense is clicking. They're running the ball. Deebo Samuel just moving the running back already. I think he's a weapon. George Kittle has been aggressive. I love what Kyle Shanahan's been able to do. Jimmy Garoppolo finally looks healthy and comfortable. And I know everyone's on the Vikings this week, and everyone loves Kirk Cousins after what he did to Green Bay and 2 straight wins. That's when you fade a guy like Kirk Cousins, when everyone's talking him up and everyone's saying how great he is, and the numbers moving against him from 2.5 now to 3, now 3.5 through a key number. Public dog Minnesota, reverse line movement towards San Francisco. I think the Niners are my favorite play of the week.
Wow. Not me. I'll take the Vikings getting those 3.5 that you just discussed. I think they're playing really well. I think it feels like this is a crazy week, by the way. There's not like a good survivor pick. No. There's not any big spreads. Nope. I feel like, honestly, this should have been the week where I didn't even do the show, and you guys just had me for every game say, could be a field goal game, guys. Either way, I'll take the team getting the points. Because honestly,
that's voice
how
recorder.
I feel in most of these games. I'm taking the Vikings. I'll take the 3.5. What I see right now is 3, but at Jared's famous website, he's seeing 3.5. So I will take the 3.5 that Jared's offering up at jaredsfakelines.com. I'll take Vikings getting the 3.5 because I think it's a field goal game either way.
Well, Ross, you're onto something because the Vikings' 5 losses have come by a combined 18 points.
Wow.
They're losing by an average of less than 4 points per game. So this is dead on that number, even if they lose. I mean, it's just right there. And I will say this, just from a football standpoint. Everybody says the NFC is so top heavy. And it is, right? You've got Arizona, which is winning games without Kyler, Green Bay, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Rams, all that stuff. Do you want to have a great year and be the 2 seed and have to play either San Francisco or Minnesota in round 1? Good luck with that.
I have a good nugget, actually. So I do a panel. There's like 4 or 5 odds makers I asked every week. And this week I asked them to rank those top 5 NFC teams, the 2 in the West, Rams and Cardinals, Bucks, Cowboys, Packers. All 5 of them gave me a different order.
Oh.
Good luck. Like those 5 teams, I think Dallas is the 5th if I had to rank them. But the other 4, every week it could change who's the best team in the NFC. And at this stage of the season, to not have a clear-cut favorite like that is very unique. A lot of variance in the league this year.
It's fun. No question.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to a good one. Indianapolis. You got the Super Bowl champs coming to town. Tom Brady and the boys, they took care of the New York Giants on Monday Night Football. They're a different team, though, on the road, and particularly in the gambling space, where they are 0-5 against the spread when they're on the road. With all that being said, Ross Tucker, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm teasing the Colts up on this one. Now, I'm seeing right now the lines at 3 the Colts are getting. I got them when they were getting 2.5. I teased them up to 8.5, paired them with the Miami Dolphins. I know we always get into teasers later, but I like the way the Colts are playing right now. Physical brand of football. It is a home game. They're running it very effectively. And you already said it, Chris. The Bucs have not been as good on the road. So I think it's a close game. I think the Bucs win the game. If it's a close game late, I think there's a much higher likelihood that Tom Brady makes the winning play or Carson Wentz makes the losing play in that scenario. But if I can get more than a touchdown, more than one score, 8.5 with the teaser, I think that's the right play here.
This is a tough game to pick. It's strength versus strength. Vita Vea if Vita Vea is playing, we won't know until Sunday. He was doubtful, didn't play Monday. Maybe they knew that they would need him more for this game against the Colts running game than they would against the Giants running game. But Vita Vea changes this dynamic for me because, that's the guy to stop the run. But man, Indy's playing so tough right now. And I love that coach, Frank Reich. But if you had to ask me in a pick'em, it's kind of a pick'em game. It's 2.5. Maybe you find a 3 out there if you want to take 3 with the Colts, but you can find a 2.5 with Tampa Bay if you want. In a pick'em game, if you're going to ask me Tom Brady or Carson Wentz, it's tough for me to take Carson Wentz in that spot. And I know Carson's just, putting together some good games this year, but I think the Bucs kind of bottomed over the last 2 weeks. And I think you saw their best effort Monday, and I think they'll continue to play well. I don't mind the teaser spot. The reason why I wouldn't tease it is because the total's over 50, which is kind of where I stop my teaser, situation. But I do think this is my favorite game of the week on Sunday to watch. I think this is going to be a fascinating matchup. Interconference teams that don't play each other a lot. Super Bowl champion against a team that has aspirations to go to a Super Bowl. Fascinating matchup. But Vita Vea's injury is key. Keep an eye on that name on Sunday with those inactives.
All right, I want to just throw out a quick stat before we move on. Tom Brady since 2010, 8-0 against the Colts. Now, I know he's changed teams. Coaches have changed. Personnel has changed. Is there ever something, Ross, to a player when he sees a particular uniform, either plays great or poorly, that you can continue on even though every other factor around him has changed?
Not really, unless in my mind it's like a former team or he feels like he was wronged by them and there would be extra motivation. I don't think that's the case with Brady and the Colts.
That's fair enough. So more like you in 2002 when Washington cut you in October.
Right, trying to figure out if there was some way I could run one of the Washington DBs or linebackers into Steve Spurrier's legs. Correct.
Excellent.
Cold. Ice cold, Ross.
Speaking of cold, let's take you to Lambeau Field.
Oh,
Rams, Packers.
Great transition.
Okay. I'm reading this right that the game is a pick'em?
Yeah.
Game is a pick'em. Does that surprise you at all?
Kind of flopped around a little bit. Open -1 Green Bay. Now, I'm seeing some shops at +1, but, that's not a huge move. When I asked the bookmakers about that, even though it's a 2-point move, which, the difference between 2.5 to 4.5 and -1 to +1, totally different scenario. So I don't read too much into the fact that the Rams are starting to get a little more of the action and the line is flipped to LA as a favorite. Here is something that I would mention. This is a little bit more of an, again, explanatory trend. But Aaron Rodgers is 44-18 straight up after a loss in his career. They don't lose games back-to-back very often. On the other side, again, an explanatory trend because this isn't a Matthew Stafford Lions team, but Stafford's 3-7 in his career at Lambeau Field. So not his best spot to play, but I know those Lions teams have been kind of hit or miss over the years at Green Bay. So that, again, doesn't really apply much to this game. What does apply to this game, the Rams kind of remind me of like the New York Yankees a little bit. They've got all these stars, but can they play together? And unlike baseball, which is not as much of a team sport, football is a team sport. 11 guys all moving as one to get the common goal and get across the end zone. And I just don't see the continuity with this Rams offense right now that I'd like to see. And the Packers defense, this might be Aaron Rodgers' best defense, like that he's played with in his career, maybe since that Super Bowl team, a decade ago. So I think the Packers, even though they got torched last week against the Vikings, now they're back at home in front of a very friendly crowd. We'll see what the conditions are at Lambeau Field. I would lean Green Bay in this spot, but the toe injury scares me, which is why I'm waiting. And the fact that the line's moving a little bit towards the Rams also leads me to believe that there's some sharp money coming in on LA. So I will pause here, but I would lean Green Bay to get this job done at home, bouncing back from their loss.
By the way, for those of you at home watching, we're changing the game we play now. It's no longer look ahead line. It's when Jared says explanatory trend, drink. Explanatory trend.
Cheers.
Good, Chris. Yeah, I think this is an awesome football game. I think it's a toss-up. I lean Rams. Because they had the bye. The Packers are so beat up. Now you have Elton Jenkins tearing his ACL, their best O-lineman, because David Bakhtiari, their other best O-lineman, is already out, who, by the way, had to get his knee scoped. Not good. Now they have a very revamped O-line going against Aaron Donald, who's fresh, Von Miller, who's fresh and now in the system a little bit. Rams have lost 2 in a row. I think this is a bounce-back game for the Rams. I like the Rams.
Yeah, keep in mind, the Rams, by the way, have not won since Halloween, right?
Yeah,
a couple of losses, a bye thrown in. It's been almost a month. But, I think that's really interesting stuff there. All right, let's move on. We already discussed one battle in the AFC North. The other two teams will tango in the Queen City. Steelers getting points on the road, right around 4.5 or so. Let's remember earlier this year, Week 3, Cincinnati took it to the Steelers, beat them 24-10 at Heinz Field. That was a game where TJ Watt missed because of injury, and the Steelers, since he came into the league in 2017, he has missed 4 games because of injury. They have yet to win one. Wow. He missed last Sunday's game. We don't know how that hip is responding. We will see on Sunday whether or not number 90 can go. Ross, you're up first.
Yeah, I like the Steelers. I mean, I was joking about it earlier, but I think this is another field goal type game. I don't really understand why they're getting 4.5. The boys are back in town. They're getting TJ Watt up front. They're getting Minkah Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden on the back end. I thought Roethlisberger played his best game of the year against the Chargers. They gave up too many points because they were missing 3 of their 4 best defensive players. This game can go either way. 4.5. Love it. Love the Steelers.
Agree. The only reason that I haven't locked it in yet is because I'm waiting for that injury news. And I think that's the most difficult part about this stage of the season. Everyone's dealing with nicks and cuts. Everyone's questionable until basically Sunday morning. But if those guys are all playing, here you go. Explanatory trend, drink. Mike Tomlin, 49-28 off a loss in his career. They win games off losses. They're very good off of a loss. And also 4-1 against the spread off of a loss against divisional opponents. So when they're playing, again, and I love Mike Tomlin in the division. I think he's been one of the best coaches in the NFL over the last decade. And if you're giving me 3 in the hook with Pittsburgh, and I saw it 4 in the hook earlier this week, my guess is if this gets to 3 before Sunday, before you hear about those Steelers defenders, the market always catches wind of the news first. So if you start to see the line creep towards Pittsburgh later in the week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning, that will be your indication that those guys are healthy. And when it is, I will be locking in the Steelers, either a half unit or a full unit. We'll see where the line is on Sunday. But I like Pittsburgh in this spot. I don't fully trust Cincinnati to lay more than a field goal.
Okay. Let's move on to the Panthers and the mighty Finns. The Dolphins. They're the host team this week. They've won 3 in a row. Yay! Here we go. The comeback starts now. These are Brian Flores traits, as far as their team goes. And they're also getting points at home. They're getting points at home for Tua in the gang that's had a win streak? Don't chuckle at me, Jared.
Yeah, I thought Tua played well last week. I did. I know it's the Jets, but still, he went on the road and, he only threw 6 incompletions. And they played well enough to win that game, and they did win that game. Now you're going to tell me that Cam Newton is coming into town with all of his bells and whistles and all of his, Superman and all this stuff. Well, if you go look at the numbers and go look how he played against Washington, maybe he should, practice the touchdown dances a little less, maybe start practicing Joe Brady's offense a little bit more.
Wait a second here. I want to cut him some slack.
Okay.
He'd only been with the team like a week and a half.
And that's
he started immediately. So, I thought he did okay.
But then why am I going to lay points on the road with a guy like that? In fact, and I'll take you one step further, you move this line through 3 and 7, get the Dolphins into a teaser spot. This is the number 1 teaser spot on Sunday. No doubt about it. Low total game, home dog, moving it from 2 to 8. Tremendous teaser spot. I think the Dolphins bottomed earlier in the year, and we are seeing the positive regression. Tua, as healthy as he looked last week, That's as healthy as he's looked, I think, in his career with the Dolphins. So I think this is a very good teaser spot for Miami at home. This is probably my number one spot on the teaser card this week.
Yeah, I only have 2 teasers this week. The Colts and the Dolphins. The defense is playing much better than they were earlier in the year. That's been over a month trend now. And I guess I have to say this quietly. Tua is pretty good. Like, he's not bad. Like, Tua strikes me as a guy that you'll probably always wish you had someone better, but there will be other teams that would gladly take him. Feels like he will be in 17 to 23ville in terms of best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's smart. He's accurate. I like the Dolphins getting 8 points as a teaser.
Yeah.
Is it just me, or does he have Phillip Rivers syndrome too? I'm talking about here, where it looks like he has to muster every ounce of energy to throw the ball more than 15 yards. Like, he threw the deep pass, the touchdown to Mac Hollins, where he was like,
he's a lefty. I'm a lefty too, by the way. I'm a lefty too.
I don't know. Ross not putting up with my chuckle.
I know. I think he's got enough arm. I mean, it's not a strength of his, but I don't think it's that bad. He throws a lot of touch. He throws a lot of touch in anticipation.
He's starting to really understand that offense. And also, great point by Jack. We were talking pregame or pre-show. He's only played in 17 games, and this is really his sophomore year. Like, he hasn't really played he's just ending his rookie year now, really.
Yeah. Jack being Jack Harrison, our stud producer.
Correct.
Shout out, Jack. Happy Thanksgiving and best to you and your family. All right, Chargers and Broncos. Last year, both these games decided by 3 points or fewer. Each team won one. So the Chargers are on the road laying points. Ross, ding, ding, ding. What do we do?
I don't have a lot on this game. I think the Chargers win. I think they played very well offensively. Herbert looked good. I don't really know what to expect from the Broncos coming off the bye. I don't really like betting on teams coming off the bye. I feel like I don't have a great feel for them, but I would lay it here with the Chargers if I had to play it.
Small sample size coming off the bye, but teams haven't done well. Last week it was 5-11 ATS. I don't remember who won, who lost last week, but even if both teams won, it still hasn't been good off the bye. But again, it's a small sample size. This game has a little inkling of reverse line movement. Everyone saw that Chargers game on Sunday night. Everybody loves LA this week. It started at 3. Now it's 2.5. So the line's moving towards Denver. Maybe that's because Bradley Chubb's coming back. Maybe that moved the line a half point. Probably not. I think there's just some smart money coming in on Denver at home as a dog. Teddy Bridgewater, underdog, explanatory trend. Teddy Bridgewater's an underdog's been really good, but I don't think that really focuses on this game because I know the tackles for Denver are both nicked up and both might not play. So there's some good injury reasons why to take LA, but the line movement points me to Denver. That makes me stay away.
All right, let's get to Ross's most important game of the week. His fighting Eagles on the road against the G-Men, who fired offensive coordinator Jason Garrett on Tuesday, and Joe Judge will not tell us who's going to call the plays.
I thought it was Freddie Kitchens. It's not Kitchens?
Well, that's what we all think.
We don't know that for sure.
He said during his Wednesday press conference, I am not going to tell you. I don't want the other team to get an advantage. Oh, my God. Like, enough of that BS.
It's ridiculous.
Stop. Just tell us Freddie Kitchens is calling the plays. Fine. Is it going to automatically turn Daniel Jones into Joe Montana? No. That's not what's going to happen. But
I hope Joe Judge calls the plays himself. That would be amazing.
That would be
great.
Listen, I like the Eagles to win the game. I never like laying 3.5. I just don't like that number. It's, you're not getting a ton of value there if you're laying 3.5. And I don't like the uncertainty, the unknown of the Garrett firing. A lot of times you fire a coach, everybody kind of sits up in their chair a little bit more.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a little bit, you get that temporary boost. Number one. Number two, the Eagles prepared Monday and Tuesday for Jason Garrett's offense. Now it's Freddie Kitchens' offense. And so they're not as well prepared. Freddie Kitchens, who knows how he'll use the weapons at his disposal. It creates a little bit more of an unknown. So I'm passing this game. I do like the Eagles to win a close game, but I'm passing it. Eagles are on fire right now, running the football, playing very, very well. I expect that to continue until proven otherwise.
Two things about this game. One, shout out to the Spotlight executives that were nice enough to spring for a suite for all of us to go to the game on Sunday. I've never been in a luxury suite in an NFL game before.
Oh, wow.
Very excited about that.
Ross, did you get your invite?
I know. I'm checking let me check my email real quick.
Yeah, hold on.
You're working on Sunday night. Both of you are. You're both working on Sunday.
Nothing from Jack Harrison, Dan Posner, nothing.
No.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I might get an angry email from the bosses later. But you know what? I'm going to be Instagramming my luxury suite, food on Sunday. So you're going to find out anyways. I'd rather you hear it from me directly from the source. That I will be in attendance at MetLife Stadium for this game on Sunday. That being said, I have to bet. If I'm in attendance for the game, I have to bet it, right? When I look at this line, immediately I thought 3 in the hook was going to be gone by late midweek, because I think these games, the divisional games tend to be. I know the Eagles have owned this series of late, but the divisional games have tended to be relatively close. And I thought 3 in the hook maybe was, a half a point too many for Philly to lay on the road. And then the Jason Garrett stuff happened, and Ross was right. It throws a massive unknown in the handicap. Didn't move the line, but it's gonna affect. It's just like the Gruden stuff. That didn't move the line either. But to say that the Gruden situation didn't have an impact between the ears for all the Raiders players, you're very short-sighted. So I don't know what the impact is going to be. I would lean actually positive if I had to say, because I think the fact that the offense is going to be different than everything Philly has had on tape for the last 11 weeks of the year does lead me to believe that the Giants' weapons. Listen, the Bucs defense is really good. I know they're banged up in the secondary, but they still have players all over the field, and they're the defending Super Bowl champs, and they made Daniel Jones look silly. I don't think the Eagles' defense is going to have that kind of pressure rate on Daniel Jones. I think Jones can't play any worse than he did on Monday. Tough turnaround, but I would lean 3 in the hook here with the Giants off of a little bit of a bounce back, but the unknowns really make me pause a lot, and it would be a very small play, maybe a half of a unit.
All right, 3 things for me on this game. One, Jared, represent us in the suite very nicely.
I was hoping Ross was going to call this game. I wanted to meet him in person, but
I'm going to be texting you every 3 to 4 minutes just to blow up your phone so it keeps buzzing and you think that you're missing important information. Number 2, if it is indeed Freddie Kitchens now calling the plays, let's remember the last time there was a midseason shakeup and Freddie Kitchens took over as a play caller. It was Baker's rookie year in Cleveland in 2018. The offense hummed after that. Different situation, different personnel. I'm just saying he does have the experience of doing it at least once before. And finally, how can we get through an Eagles game without talking about Ross Tucker's futures bet being on the doorstep, if the Eagles win this weekend, of you being able to build that extension on your house?
The precipice.
The climax.
At this point, it would be an all-time shocker if they don't hit the over 6.5.
I agree. Yeah. They've looked really good the last 2 weeks. That first half against – now, is Darius Slay banged up? I saw a Q next to his name. Again, it's still early in the week. We don't have it. But that would be – I know it's concussion, right? That matters. The Giants have pretty good weapons, Tony and Galladay. And so that would be a little bit of a concern for me if they don't have their number 1 cover corner, because that's going to make the Giants offense a little more explosive, I would say, if Darius Slay does not play.
Yeah, and I don't think – I'm trying to check the Eagles' schedule very quickly here. I don't think they have to get on a plane the rest of the year, right?
They don't.
It's back-to-back games in New York, and
Washington.
their only other road game is Washington.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It's very favorable for Ross's bet.
Now, very favorable for
the Eagles to make the playoffs, maybe.
And a playoff spot, possibly.
100%. How do we feel about Sirianni now? I know in Philly they were a little sour a few weeks ago. Now they probably feel pretty good, right?
Like him a lot more.
They like him a lot more. What I don't like?
That's what the W's will do.
I don't like his challenge flag toss. That was the wimpiest toss ever last week on Hurts' second touchdown run. He threw it down at his feet. If you're gonna
better than Pete Carroll throwing the, what was it, like a beeper or like that?
I think it was his garage door opener. When you take the challenge flag, if you don't fire that thing at least 17 yards, you should lose your challenge. You need to throw it with some emphasis. Don't be like it's not an egg. Throw that thing.
I would just drop it.
You are that type of guy.
I would just drop it at the feet.
I would toss it right at the ref. Just peg him with it. Boom. You got this wrong.
let's talk about the team that is hosting Monday Night Football against Seattle. This team released our friend Ross Tucker in October of 2002, only to see his teeth get kicked in several weeks later on Thanksgiving Day down in Dallas. So Washington is favored by a point against a team that cannot score at all. Some places have it as a pick 'em. I don't know. Ross?
I'm going by what I see. I mean, the Washington football team, Taylor Heineke, they played very well 2 games in a row. They beat the Bucks. You probably heard of them. Then they go to Carolina, beat Cam Newton and the Panthers. Seattle cannot score. They look terrible. Now, maybe Seattle comes out and looks great. Maybe they beat them by 3 touchdowns. I don't know. But I'm going by what I've seen of these teams, which is that Seattle stinks and can't score. Washington's playing very well. I like Washington laying the point.
Big line move here from the look ahead. I've been saying explanatory too much, so I'll go back to look ahead here. Plus 3.5 last week. Last week, this line was plus 3.5, and now Washington is favored. That's a pretty impactful move. Threw a key number, crossing 0. Now Washington, laying the penny. I'm not picking this game. You know how I feel about the Monday night games. I usually like to wait until Sunday night, Monday morning, let all the action from Sunday. How have the books done? Is there a lot of public handle, which I don't expect there to be a lot of public handle on this game. It's not a very sexy matchup, but I'm going to wait till Monday to bet this. And if I had to bet it right now, as we're doing this show, I would take Seattle because I think the line, again, what have I learned in the NFL this year? When that line moves over a field goal, the value is on the other side. So, the fact that Seattle was laying 3 in the hook last week and now they're an underdog, I think Seattle would be the value play, but I'm going to be patient on this one.
I will say this about the football. Taylor Heineke is quickly becoming the beardless Fitzmagic.
He looks great.
He makes some throws where you're like, what are you doing, dummy? And then there's other ones where you're like, okay, this is fun. Kind of cool.
Their defense played really well against Carolina. That was a big, and without Chase Young and Montez Sweat, that was a concern for me. But their defense has really started to elevate their game.
And by the way, no joke, they're just a game out of the playoff chase too. It's just
the
weird.
NFC.
Coming into the week, 24 of the 32 teams were within 1 game of the playoffs. 24 of the 32.
Just I think I saw the way the NFL likes it.
Absolutely. The playoff picture is going to be fascinating. But I saw when they did one of the playoff picture snapshots, and the only teams that they left out were the Bears and the Lions in the NFC. That made me laugh. I had to laugh.
Boys, it was fun not doing just 1, but 2 shows with you. We had the Thanksgiving special, and now we break down the Sunday and Monday games. Quick reminder to check us out on our Pickswise YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. It doesn't mean you're paying us a fee. It just means you're getting the content. It is there at your disposal. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Download the Pickswise Playbook podcast.
And I will say this, Chris, before you're finished, I know we talked about during the show, just to reiterate, because I know some people maybe fast forward to come to the end of the show. My teasers are the Colts plus 8.5 and the Dolphins plus 8. We always do teaser time at the end. So
you're right.
If you're the type of loser that doesn't watch the whole show or listen to the whole show, you just go for the teasers at the end, I wanted to reward your loserism by telling you Colts plus 8.5, Dolphins plus 8, my 2 teasers.
Biggest loser here because I blew right past it. That makes me the biggest loser, and not the one where I would like to lose 25 pounds, but the biggest loser.
You are the weakest link.
I think I'll go Dolphins Pats, AFC East teaser this week.
Yeah.
Dolphins Pats.
You're right. It does take some reiteration, so that was my fault. We usually do that. I think the 2-show thing kind of threw off my biorhythms.
Yeah, your mojo.
Yeah.
I'll say this, my teasers have been brutal, though. They've been
next
brutal.
Week, Chris, Jared's going to talk about the explanatory trend of what you do at the end of shows when there's 2 of them.
Oh, yeah, we have to drink now.
I will be drinking an awful lot after that sort of performance.
You're going to start using that in your day-to-day life now, Ross. I'm going to watch your game on Sunday.
Never heard that before in my life.
Explanatory trends is something that explains something and not predicts something.
Yeah,
we use trends a lot in gambling to try to predict.
I just never heard anybody else say it before.
Well,
which is a good thing because I'd be drunk by now if other people said it.
Can I use it when I'm about to go purchase a new car right now? Can I?
Yeah,
use
you would
that
throw off the salesman. He would probably lower the price.
So what's the explanatory trend on this car? I almost want to be rolling on it. And it'll be like, well, my friend Jared Smith tells me, and I'll be like, that's it. I'm walking out of here. I cannot buy a car if you're going to use that. All right. So for Ross and for Jared and our outstanding producer, Jack, who behind the scenes was like, oh, my God, you guys were all over the place. Can we get some content out? I am Chris Rose. We'll see you next time here on Pickswise Playbook. Now go. Win some dough.